they can be on the call. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Public Safety and Government Operations Committee meeting. In attendance, we have from the committee, Councilman Burnett, Councilman Cohen, Councilwoman Porter. I have marked as absent for now. Councilman Glover, he said he's on his way. Councilwoman Ramos is on her way as well. And no word from Councilman Costello. Oh, 1 second.
Mr. Chair, I'm here. Excuse my being tardy.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I've got Chair Costello and Councilman Glover actually trying to get in, but having some trouble. We'll handle that in the background as we get into this. I'll just keep moving forward. I don't see any other folks from the council on this call at the moment. I'll move on to members from the Office of the President. Nikki Thompson, Matt Stegman.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Aaron DeGraffenried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And representing the Mayor's Office, Natasha Mihu. And Nina Demelis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I see Chair Costello on the call as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Today we'll be hearing Bill 21-0014, Baltimore City Fire Department reporting requirements, for the purpose of requiring the fire chief of the Baltimore City Fire Department to report annually certain information to the mayor and city council of Baltimore, requiring the report to be made available on the department's website, and providing for a special effective date. This bill was introduced on January 11th, 2021, and it was sponsored by Councilmember Chris Burnett. I'll open the floor to Councilman Sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues and staff from the fire department, the fire chief here. So I don't really have much different to say, Mr. Chair, than from the last hearing. I did want to, just further reiterate, the intention of the bill isn't to, not acknowledge the work that's been done in the fire department, or to say that things have not changed in the department. But and so I did want to clear that up from the last hearing, and I didn't want the takeaway to be that the folks at Baltimore City Fire Department aren't working hard to ensure diversity in the ranks, or to recruit, or not trying to recruit people from Baltimore City. But I think we can always do better. I do want to acknowledge the strides that have been made, but we do have, as elected officials, when presented data, which was shared with the committee around the issue of recruitment, of equity, of placement of officers. The data is pretty clear that there needs to be a little bit more work done in that direction, and I think this bill takes that step in providing a level of oversight and transparency within the department to, if anything, showcase those efforts that are being made, so that when we look back at this department, years from now, because it will take time to make changes that are needed, we have a department that is reflective of the citizens of Baltimore, or the city of Baltimore, and one that we can all be proud of. And again, wanted to acknowledge that work that has been done under Chief Ford's leadership, not in any way an attack on him or anybody on his staff, but we have work to do, and so I think I'm happy to, when we get the time to talk about some of the amendments that we've been working through with the fire department to make this bill a little bit better than it is. But other than that, I'm happy to just take questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Burnett. Now, I want to thank you and the chief again for all the work that you guys did, on the back end, trying to make sure that the amendments make sense and that we can get to something that made sense for both the department and for what we're trying to accomplish as a city. So now the committee will hear from agency representatives. We'll start off first with the fire department.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, we really don't have a whole lot to add. As I stated yesterday, we're prepared to report the information as outlined in the amendment, and look forward to the opportunity to discuss what we've done and what we're able to do in the future.
Thank you, Chief Ford. Anything from the law department?
No, Mr. Chair. The amendments are approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you, Hillary. Anything from the Department of Finance?
No, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to public testimony. If there are any questions or, statements from the public on this bill, now is the time to ask questions. We've got Josh Fannin.
Thank you, Councilman Conway. I'm Josh Fannin, president of IAFF Local 964, Baltimore Fire Officers. We attended the previous work session, and we just had a few points of clarification. We weren't sure if it would influence the bill to, I wouldn't want to make any suggestions that might change the intent of it, but from the initial reader we had seen on page 2, line 1, I was just thinking the council may not want to limit the reported number of supervisors by rank to just fire suppression and EMS, because we actually have multiple other bureaus and divisions across the fire department, including the Office of the Fire Marshal, headquarters, fire academy, logistics, etc. So if the intent of the bill was to get a full focused look on the fire department, I was suggesting that you might want to consider including that information. Additionally, on page 2, lines 25 through 29, Local 964 strongly supports the reporting of that information, and it would tie into future proposed legislation we were discussing with other members of the council at a later date. I was just curious if it was in the interest of the bill, in addition to the reporting of the number of personnel suspended with or without pay, the council may benefit from a reporting of the number of days for each as well to get a full picture. For example, if there were 100 personnel suspended without pay for a total of 400 days, that might give a more thorough picture as to what the state of discipline is in the Baltimore City Fire Department. And I think that was kind of the intent of it, but those were just a few of the things that we noted when we reviewed the legislation. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Josh. Any other questions? Any other statements, public testimony? Seeing none, we have one amendment for consideration. And I'm going to see if we can get that put up for folks to see.
Mr. Chair, just for clarity, actually, there should be 4. Okay, there are 4 on the screen. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for clarifying. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Councilman Burnett, since you really ushered this through, do you want to walk us through quickly what the 4 proposed amendments are?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
For amendment number 1, clarifies hiring and really narrows the focus to the reporting to the pre-employment screening, and it also creates a designation of either the fire chief or a fire chief designee. And it also strikes department and application and substitutes pre-employment screening on a few of the lines in that same segment. The intent of this bill, of that amendment, is just to clarify that we are mostly interested in the screening process, the list of proposed candidates, and not necessarily having the department have to report on every single step of the way. But to just narrow that focus a little bit more on the screening and portion of that. Amendment number 2, again, just to narrow it, one of the things that came up in the last work session was the amount of times the department would be coming to the council to report out, and they're being particularly difficult from an administrative perspective. So number 9 on that basically substitutes emergency medical services as the annual requirement for reporting. This will still require, when the EMS fire application process is initiated, to come every time. But as we heard in the last hearing, the goal for the Baltimore City Fire Department is to try and hit a 2-year mark on that. There's a lot more demand for that position, and making it not open as often. But for EMS, we were told that the EMS list opens up sometimes 4 to 5 times a year, and didn't feel like it was one of the things that needed to be reported out 4 to 5 times per year, but to narrow that focus to an annual reporting. Amendment number 3 adds, again, more clarity around pre-employment screening and what we'd like to see there. The date for the report to come out, and actually, sorry, I'm having some tech problems with my list here. Hold on one second, Mr. Chair. Okay, here we go. And what needs to be reported out. Again, more clarification. Amendment number 4 on this list corrects a date in the original version of the bill, which initially read that the reporting needed to be on January 31st, 2021, which, as we can see, is already passed, and substitutes 90 days from the passage of this. And there's another portion of the bill that does require that annual report to occur in January every single year. But we just wanted to make sure we caught the typographical issue in the initial version of the bill. So amendment number 4 cleans that up, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Burnett. Any questions about the amendments? Is there a motion to move the
I have a
packet?
question. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I didn't hit
Please.
unmute fast enough. Thank you to both Chief Ford and, of course, to my colleague for really working through this. And thanks to Councilman Burnett for continuing to bring this to us and make sure it's right. So it looks like that if I'm looking at this correctly, the amendments are really focused on the emergency medical folks in the fire department. Is that right? Okay. And then so our union colleague's suggestion about some other departments we'll consider later, I guess. Or this is just focused on the EMS.
So that's the first I've heard it. If you'd like to offer an amendment, sure, but these are the amendments that we negotiated with the fire department
Sure.
Already, and issues that were raised in the previous work session.
Sure. Okay. And then, of course, then you put in here that the chief or that person's designee would come before us once a year to tell us about their strategy. Okay. Yep. Thank you. I just want to clarify. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And Councilwoman Ramos, and I think Chief Ford can maybe speak a little better to this than I can, but if I understand correctly, for the positions that were just mentioned, in those instances, it goes through a different testing process. And so they're a little bit separate from this process.
Yeah. May I, Mr. Chair?
Please.
In each division, there's separate avenues for promotion. And within those idioms, you have to go through that process in order to take the next step. But Mr. Chair, it's no problem for us to report out those positions as well.
Thank you. To that effect, I suppose we can pose this question to the bill sponsor. Councilman Burnett, would you like to revisit that, or would you like to consider that in a separate bill, or do you think we are happy where we are?
I mean, I think it would require an additional analysis that we could take up at a later date. Would be my preference on this.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to move the 4 amendments as proposed?
So moved. Second.
So moved by Councilwoman Porter and seconded by Councilwoman Ramos. So roll call. Conway, yay. Burnett, yay. Cohen,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Glover. I'm not sure if Glover was able to make it on the call. I don't see Councilman Glover. Porter, yes. And Ramos.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. It looks like Councilman Glover might be in as an attendee. I know he was having some difficulty.
Thank you.
It does look like he's in the attendee list.
Thank you, Matt. Let's see if we can get him bumped up. Councilman Glover.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I have Councilman Glover on the line here. Give me 1 second. Councilman, yep. Go ahead, Councilman Glover. There was a vote on the amendments.
We got yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilman.
The amendments pass. And now is there a motion to move the bill? Yeah. Is there a motion to move the bill favorable with amendments? Moved by Councilman Porter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Burnett. Conway, yay. Burnett? Yes. Cohen?
Yes.
Yes. Costello?
Yes.
Glover?
Yes.
Porter?
Yes.
With all yeses, this bill will move forward. Presented the next hearing for second reader. Thank you, folks. With that, these hearings are adjourned and the committee will present the bill at the next council meeting. Thank you, folks. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.